Dear YM Central Europe and YM Europe. I'm sitting here together with John Hess. John is a legend in our mission. He has been 33 years in Poland. He's born in America, and it's what I will call a living Wikipedia. I asked John today to be on this call to ask a little bit about the NATO and how the conflict in Ukraine, how that is affecting us in Central Europe specific, but also in Europe. So John, how do you view the NATO's and Romania, Poland and a Central European nation joining the NATO?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to go back in history almost, 70 years now, when the Soviet Union, on the heels of World War II, began to take over, in reality, the nations of Central Europe, what we now call Central Europe. And in response to this, the Western countries formed a collective security arrangement, which they called NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And its intention was to safeguard the freedom, the common heritage and civilization of its peoples based on the principles of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. It was a very effective arrangement because we didn't have any conflicts in Europe, even despite this Cold War. And that lasted up until 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell and the nations of Central Europe then were set loose from the Soviet Union. At the beginning, NATO was comprised of the thing that makes NATO effective is what is called Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, which obligates all member states to come to the aid of any member subject to an armed attack. It's only been evoked one time, and that was when the United States experienced the September 11th attack in New York City. And then all the member nations engaged in Afghanistan. But that clause is the reason why Putin is so afraid of having the Ukraine join NATO. But we need to understand that that's the primary reason why, on one side, Russia reacts to Ukraine's bid to try and be a part of the NATO, but it's also why NATO is so hesitant about having the Ukraine join, because it's really like between the rock and a hard place. So, but this is really the sticky point. And it's also the reason why no NATO country is coming to the aid of the Ukraine. There's nothing that obligates us to do that. And so the NATO charter does not really allow us to do that.
So if you yourself live in Poland, would you be afraid at this point in Poland or in any of the other neighbor nations that belongs to the NATO?
I don't think so, because it's been such an effective organization. I don't think Russia will try to do anything, because it would engage the full wrath of all the other member nations. They would have to come to that nation's aid.
Okay, John, I think that's a very good insight and a good history on the effectiveness of NATO and also how this plays out today. So thank you for that. And we will hear more from you in times that are to come, because that's in the planning. But this is a short call to just have NATO's backing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. You're welcome, Rona.